Ready to step off the map from the most hidden alleyways to the stories nobody told you? Uncharted Alleyways begins now. Your definitive guide and travel podcast, culture, adventure, and the world as you've never heard it. Tune in, disconnect from the obvious, and come explore with us. Uncharted Alleyways, your next trip starts here.
Every single day at noon, there are just thousands of people standing elbow to elbow in Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah. Thousands.
Right. And they're all trying to take, like, the exact same photograph of the castle.
Yep, the classic postcard shot.
Exactly. You look around and it's just this massive sea of smartphones held up in the air. Everyone wants that perfect two-dimensional image,
Yeah.
you know, the gray stone, the bright blue sky.
The pristine cobblestones.
Right. Maybe a bagpiper in the background if they're lucky. But what if the actual city, like the living organism that could fundamentally change how you see the world, is happening right above their heads?
While they're just, staring through a screen.
Exactly.
It's so common, though. I mean, we really condition ourselves to look for the recognizable stuff. When we travel, we want the reality to match the brochure.
Because it feels good. It's like a checklist.
Right. It gives us the sense of accomplishment. Like, we flew thousands of miles, we saw the monument, we documented it. Check. But the thing is, treating a historic place like a static museum display, it just completely blinds you. You miss the actual mechanics of the place functioning in the present tense.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today, we are taking you on a deep dive into an excerpt from the travel series Uncharted Alleyways.
Specifically, their exploration of Edinburgh, Scotland.
Right. And our mission today is not, I repeat, not to give you just another top 10 list of attractions.
No, you probably already know about Edinburgh Castle.
Right. And Arthur's Seat. You can Google those.
Okay.
What we are diving into today is really a masterclass on slow travel. It's about how to, rip up that checklist and experience a famous destination as a breathing, messy, contemporary entity.
Yeah, and the material establishes this brilliant core tension right from the jump.
It really does.
It's this friction between a city that's frozen in history and a city being aggressively lived in today.
Yeah.
Those two versions of Edinburgh, they occupy the exact same physical space, but you have to use entirely different ways of looking if you actually want to perceive them both.
So, to perceive that living city, the source suggests you kind of have to intercept it before it puts on its tourist face.
Which means getting up early.
Very early, like dawn. You step out into that soft gray light before the tour buses are idling at the curb.
Before the shops even unlock their doors, really.
Right. It's when you can hear, like, just a single set of footsteps echoing down the street. And you smell the yeast and the butter from the bakeries starting their ovens. You're basically watching the gears turn before the curtain goes up on the big performance.
And, understanding those gears requires understanding why Edinburgh looks the way it does in the first place.
The architecture.
Exactly. The architecture entirely dictates the lifestyle. The original city, the old town, it was built on top of a craggy, extinct volcano.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. And centuries ago, for defense, they built this massive boundary called the Flodden Wall around the whole thing.
Right.
So because the city literally couldn't expand outward past that wall or, off the edge of the cliff, it was forced to build upward.
So they were building, like, skyscrapers.
Yeah, basically early timber and stone skyscrapers way back in the 16th and 17th centuries.
That verticality completely changes how you have to navigate the space. Like, when you walk down the Royal Mile,
The main street there.
right, the thoroughfare that slopes down from the castle at the top to Holyrood House at the bottom, which, just for those who might not know, is the British monarch's official residence in Scotland.
Right.
When most people walk down that street, they just stare straight ahead. They're looking at the eye-level shop displays.
All the mass-produced tartan scarves.
Yeah, and the little plastic bagpipes. But the trick, the source says, you have to look up.
Because that ground floor is just a modern commercial facade. The upper floors are where the architectural truth is.
Yes, you start noticing ancient carved stone
Mm-hmm.
and these tiny irregular windows.
Faded painted signs from businesses that closed like 100 years ago.
And buildings that are literally leaning over the street. It's so cool. It's kind of like, and this is how I thought about it, it's like looking at the background code of a website.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like those eye-level shop fronts. That's the polished user interface. It's designed purely for a consumer transaction.
Right.
But when you lift your chin and look above the awnings, you're suddenly seeing the HTML. You're seeing the structural framework.
Raw data.
Exactly. You see deliveries being hauled up these narrow staircases, or a resident leaning out of a 400-year-old window with a cup of tea. You're seeing workers commuting through these ancient little alleyways. You see how the city actually processes its data behind that interface.
And that framework is just incredibly layered. The architecture isn't a museum exhibit. It's a functional container for contemporary life.
Yeah.
Like, take Victoria Street. It's this sweeping, curved, vibrant maze of colorful, independent shops.
They're beautiful.
It is, and walking through it feels like you're navigating this multi-level puzzle box. And eventually, it drops you all the way down into the Grassmarket.
Which is the perfect example of this whole concept. Because you can grab a coffee down in the Grassmarket, sit on a bench, and just look hundreds of feet straight up this sheer rock face to the castle.
Right, but historically, the Grassmarket wasn't exactly a place for artisan lattes.
No, definitely not.
It was a site for livestock trading and, quite brutally, public executions.
Yeah, it has a very dark past. But the past is just the foundation, right? The present is constantly writing over it. That dark history hasn't been erased. I mean, the old architecture is still incredibly imposing, but it's been repurposed.
Now it's bustling pubs and outdoor seating.
Exactly. It visually demonstrates how a city's layers never really disappear. They just get absorbed into the modern rhythm.
Well, but that vertical exposed geography you're talking about, it does come with a cost.
Oh, the weather.
Yes. You are entirely at the mercy of the North Sea weather.
And nothing shoves you into the layers of Edinburgh's indoor culture, quite like a sudden, totally horizontal Scottish downpour.
Yeah, the weather in Scotland isn't just a meteorological event. It operates as an active participant in your itinerary.
For sure. I mean, practicality is key. You absolutely have to pack layers and proper waterproofs.
Definitely.
But the source makes this great point. The absolute worst thing you can do is let a rainy morning ruin your plans.
Yeah.
Because the rain actually makes Edinburgh what it is.
It turns all that dark volcanic stone slick so it reflects the streetlights.
Yeah, and it pulls the mist down low over the hills. It just forces this incredibly moody cinematic atmosphere. You will literally get the best photographs of your trip when it's raining.
And crucially, it forces a shift in your velocity.
What do you mean?
Well, when it's pouring, you can't just march quickly from monument to monument. You have to seek shelter. The weather mandates this kind of forced surrender to the city's interior life.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which naturally leads you straight into its literary heart, because Edinburgh has this unbelievable energy of feeling like a dusty, sprawling novel.
It really does. Every narrow alleyway, or close as they call them, has some kind of ghost story or historical footnote attached to it.
Right. So the rain basically pushes you into these cramped, independent bookstores that smell like old paper, or into the corner of a quiet cafe with a hot drink and a paperback.
It also pushes you into the grand indoor escapes. The material highly recommends the National Museum of Scotland here.
Yes, and particularly because of its economic structure.
Right, because admission is completely free.
Which is huge. That free admission actually rewires your brain using basic behavioral economics.
Also.
Think about it. When we pay like $30 or $40 for a ticket to a major tourist attraction, we fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy.
Well, sure. You feel like you have to see everything.
Exactly. We feel this agonizing pressure to see every single exhibit, read every single placard, and just walk until our feet bleed to get our money's worth.
It's exhausting.
It is. But because the National Museum is unticketed, that pressure just vanishes. You can wander in just to dodge a rainstorm, look at a dinosaur skeleton or maybe a piece of medieval silver for 20 minutes, and then leave without an ounce of guilt.
Yeah, you're grazing on culture rather than gorge feeding on it.
Exactly.
But, this actually brings us to a slightly more controversial piece of advice in the material.
Oh, regarding the Scottish National Gallery.
Right. The suggestion is to walk in, sign one painting, look at it, and not even bother reading the artist's plaque before you leave.
Okay, wait, I got to push back hard on that.
Let's hear it.
Isn't that the literal definition of anti-intellectual travel?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you are standing in a world-class institution surrounded by masterpieces and you deliberately choose not to read the historical context, are you just wasting your time? We go to these places to learn.
See, what's fascinating here is that we often conflate travel with academic study. We assume that if we didn't memorize the dates and the context, we somehow failed the assignment of being a quote-unquote good traveler. But the underlying philosophy in this source challenges that completely.
How?
Well, Traveling isn't exclusively about accumulating trivia. It's about exposing yourself to stimuli that alter your emotional state.
So it's about checking in with your own internal reaction rather than just memorizing some external fact.
Exactly. Think about what the rain does to the city's architecture. We just said it shifts the landscape from a dry historical blueprint into a moody atmospheric feeling.
Right.
Engaging purely emotionally with art does the exact same thing to your brain. If you stand in front of a massive Scottish landscape painting just to see how the blues and grays make your chest feel, you transition from a tourist who is cataloging data into an observer who is feeling an impact.
Wow.
Removing the plaque just removes the pressure of performance.
Okay, that actually frames it beautifully. It kind of gives you permission to just exist in a space. And speaking of existing in spaces, stepping out of those grand, intimidating institutions, this deep dive shifts into a really profound appreciation for the mundane.
The ordinary moments.
Right. The argument is that the ordinary moments, the ones we usually just consider filler between the big attractions, those actually become the anchor points of our memories.
Which is hard for us because culturally we really struggle with the idea that doing nothing is actually doing something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ambitious travelers treat downtime like it's a failure of planning.
But the downtime is where the city actually lives. It's sitting in an independent cafe, just listening to the rain tap against the window.
Or finding a bench in Prince's Street Gardens.
Yes, that massive green valley that separates the old town from the new town.
Just sitting there and watching dogs chase tennis balls. Or watching parents wrangle their toddlers. Because a tourist monument only shows you what a city wants you to see.
Right. A local park shows you how the city actually operates on a Tuesday afternoon.
And dogs are highlighted in the source as a really crucial metric for this rhythm.
Oh, for sure. The morning walks, the dogs tied up outside bakeries, they basically tether the human residents to this strict daily routine that completely ignores the tourism industry.
It's so grounding. Though, quick side note, the source mentions a universal rule when you venture out of the city and into wilder Scotland.
Oh, right. Regarding the wildlife.
Yeah. Observe the Highland cows and the deer from a distance. Never chase them, never crowd them, never leave food.
Very important.
But staying within the city limits, watching that daily routine unfold is just so vital. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. I think of sitting on that bench in Prince's Street Gardens, kind of like the negative space in a painting.
Oh, I love that analogy. Explain that a bit more.
So in visual art, the negative space is the empty area around the primary subject, right? If a painter crams every single square inch of the canvas with detail, the eye just gets exhausted.
It's too much. It becomes a cluttered mess.
Exactly. And if your itinerary is just castle, monument, museum, monument, heavy dinner, you have zero negative space.
Yeah.
The 2 hours you spend just watching a terrier fetch a stick in the park, that is the unstructured emptiness that gives shape and meaning to the busy sightseeing.
And cognitive neuroscience absolutely backs up your negative space concept.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Our brains literally cannot process and store continuous streams of high-level novel information. The hippocampus requires periods of low-stakes, observation-like downtime to consolidate short-term experiences into long-term memories.
Well, that's wild.
So without that negative space on a park bench, the castle you saw 4 hours earlier just blurs into a general feeling of exhaustion.
Which totally happens on trips.
Yeah.
And filling that negative space gives you the perfect opportunity to interact with the people around you, too.
Yeah.
Like, the material suggests talking to locals, a bartender, a barista, a hotel clerk, and asking them what they would do with a free afternoon.
But there is a really critical distinction there. The source says you want opinions rather than instructions.
Why is that difference so important?
Because asking for instructions puts the local in the position of a tour guide. They'll just tell you the top 5 things they think a tourist should see.
Right, they'll just send you to the castle.
Exactly. But asking for their personal opinion changes the dynamic completely. You're asking them to map the city through their own emotional attachments. You aren't trying to find the correct way to see Edinburgh because there is no correct way.
You're just collecting diverse viewpoints that reveal the actual personality of the neighborhoods.
Exactly.
But, finding that negative space in a park or asking a barista for their favorite walking path, that's all wonderfully free. The real challenge for a slow traveler is surviving the local economy without falling into tourist traps.
Because engaging with the daily rhythm means dealing with food, souvenirs, and budget.
And the economics of slow travel are fundamentally different from the economics of the postcard traveler. So the first rule of engagement here is hitting the local markets, and skipping those generic merchandise shops entirely. Like, if you want a genuine physical memory of the place, look for local wool, handmade crafts, small batch preserves, or, buy a book written by a Scottish author.
And then there's the culinary tradition.
Right. Scottish food is incredibly hearty. It was born out of agricultural necessity in a really cold climate. So we're talking smoked salmon, heavy meat pies, shortbread, oat cakes.
And we cannot ignore Cullen skink.
Okay, let's pause right there. Because to anyone outside of the UK, Cullen skink sounds like a small, exotic lizard.
It does.
What actually is it?
It is a remarkably rich, thick soup. It's made of smoked haddock, potatoes, and onions.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It is brilliant comfort food, especially if you've been caught in one of those downpours we mentioned earlier.
And then, of course, there's haggis.
Ah, yeah.
Which is essentially sheep pluck, so heart, liver, and lungs mixed with oats and spices, and traditionally encased in the animal's stomach.
A classic.
But this raises a really serious question about the anxiety of the perfect traveler. We put so much pressure on ourselves to be culturally adventurous, right? So do I really have to force down a bowl of Cullen skink or a plate of haggis if the thought of it turns my stomach and I really just want a simple salad?
That's a very common fear.
Right. Am I failing at experiencing Scotland if I say no?
This is where we confront what the source calls the tyranny of authenticity. Travel is about understanding a culture's environment, not necessarily participating in every single one of its historical survival mechanisms.
Okay, phew. So I can deeply respect the haggis without actually having to ingest the haggis.
Precisely. And the approach to Scotch whiskey is the perfect parallel here.
How so?
Well, whiskey is inextricably tied to Scotland's history, its economy, and its global identity, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
You absolutely should learn about the regional styles. The smoke of Islay versus the lightness of the lowlands, because it tells you about the geography. But you can appreciate the history of the peat bogs and the whole distillation process without ever letting a single drop of alcohol touch your lips.
Right.
Trying new things expands your boundaries, sure, but forcing participation out of guilt entirely defeats the goal of authentic connection.
I love that. And that grace extends beautifully to the budget as well. Like walking instead of taking cabs, using the incredibly efficient public transit buses, packing a picnic from a local grocery store to eat on a hill.
Those aren't compromises you make just because you can't afford the luxury tour.
Right. They are the actual gateways into the community. The ultimate realization is that the grandest architecture and the most intoxicating atmosphere in Edinburgh do not have a ticket booth.
Admiring the Gothic skyline against the clouds from a random side street is completely free.
The city itself is the masterwork. The admission price is just paying attention.
Beautifully said.
Which kind of brings us to the end of the day. We've navigated the early morning mechanics, we've surrendered to the rainy afternoons, untangled the anxiety of the local economy. Naturally, we arrive at the sunset shift.
Yes, the sunset shift.
And this is where we uncover the ultimate local secret from the material.
Because the transition from day to night strips away the final layers of that tourist facade. The day trippers get back on their buses, and the city kind of reclaims itself.
So for the perfect free afternoon, the source says you start in a neighborhood like Stockbridge, which has this elegant Georgian architecture.
It's lovely.
You walk down along the Water of Leith, which is this quiet, winding river path right through the city, and you continue toward Dean Village.
Which feels like a hidden 19th century milling hamlet.
It really does. You grab a local bite, and then you find a quiet viewpoint. And importantly, not the crowded, famous spots like the top of Arthur's Seat where everyone is fighting for a selfie.
Right. Somewhere still.
Yeah. You just sit and watch the light fail. You watch the castle transition from a stone fortress into just a flat black silhouette against the sky.
The warm yellow lights of the pubs click on one by one.
And the sound of the streets shifts from the hum of traffic to just the murmur of people meeting for dinner.
And in that moment, sitting in the dark, you have this sudden, overwhelming realization that you are looking at a living, breathing community, not a historical backdrop.
It's so powerful.
And the final piece of philosophy offered here is perhaps the most counterintuitive advice for anyone planning a trip.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
The advice is, you shouldn't completely understand Edinburgh in one visit. Deliberately leave things undone.
Yes.
Leave another street unwalked, another cafe unvisited, another hill unclimbed.
I just love this idea. It perfectly utilizes the Zeigarnik effect.
Oh, remind me what that is again.
So it's this psychological principle that uncompleted tasks stick in our memory way longer than completed ones.
Right, right.
Luma Zeigarnik was this psychologist, and she noticed that restaurant waiters could remember these incredibly complex, unpaid orders perfectly. But the second the bill was paid and the task was finished, the memory just vanished from their brains.
That makes total sense.
So if you run yourself ragged trying to see 100% of a city, your brain just checks the box. The task is complete and the memory starts to fade. But by deliberately leaving a neighborhood unexplored, you keep the trip psychologically open.
The city stays alive in your mind because there's unfinished business.
Exactly. You guarantee yourself a reason to return.
And by refusing to treat the destination as a checklist to be completed, you allow the city to reveal its contemporary self against that staggering medieval backdrop. The magic isn't in seeing everything. The magic is in understanding the depth of what you do choose to look at.
I think that is the absolute perfect takeaway. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of slow travel. We've unpacked how looking above the shop awnings to see the city's code, embracing the forced surrender of the rain, and prioritizing the unstructured negative space of a park bench can fundamentally rewire the way you experience a destination.
It's never about capturing the two-dimensional postcard.
No, it's about finding the pulse.
And just to leave you with a slightly broader perspective, the material ends with a little teaser for a completely different Scottish experience. Glasgow.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Glasgow is described as energetic, creative, musically driven, and unmistakably modern.
Quite the contrast.
Exactly. Its industrial, rapid-fire energy stands in stark, direct contrast to Edinburgh's preserved Gothic mood and deep historical stillness. And this presents a really fascinating reality. Our understanding of a historic place like Edinburgh is sharply defined by what it is not.
So by looking at the industrial modernization of Glasgow, we actually gain a deeper appreciation for Edinburgh's deliberate stillness.
Contrast is what gives our world definition. I mean, you cannot perceive the depth of the shadows without the presence of the light. So I invite you to consider your own life or the places you have traveled. How do the contrasting forces, the fast and the slow, the aggressively modern and the stubbornly historic, the loud chaos and the deliberate quiet, actually define and give meaning to the spaces you love the most?
Wow, that's a lot to chew on. Because the next time you see that flat, perfect postcard of a castle against a blue sky, you'll know exactly how much beautiful, messy, living contrast is hiding just out of frame. Keep looking up, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.